Hi guys, and welcome to another session of Honest Talk About Women, where you'll learn tips, tricks and strategies on how to navigate the minefields of dating and relationships. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also comment in the comment section. If you have a story you want to share with viewers, you can contact me on my email address listed below. So today's session is about separation and the 5 tips you need to follow. This is a disclaimer before we start, offering any legal advice whatsoever. This is just my opinion based on my experience. Both my parents did not divorce, but I am divorced twice. This is after the counselling stage. So you've tried counselling and it hasn't worked and you're looking at going your own ways. So I've got an excellent video on counselling, which I'll list at the end. Marriage has an approximate 50% failure rate. So it's always interesting into people that enter into a contract that has a 50% failure rate. In business, when you go into a business contract with someone, if there's a likely chance of 50% or even greater than 50% chance of it failing, it's always interesting, the marriage contract. The time period to legally divorce after separation varies from country to country. Russia is 3 months, Northern Ireland is 5 years. That means you've got to be legally separated before you legally divorce. So depending on what jurisdiction you're in, you'll need to work that out, what the time period is. Also, with marriage law, the government can change things and legislate and make it retrospective. So they can tweak the custody support payments, the alimony, the actual time together in a marriage. And it's a very unusual contract where the government has total influence of it. Separation is not a nice situation, but inevitable in certain circumstances. If there are kids involved, it can affect them. But usually, from my experiences, if they're under 7 years old, when you separate, or over 18, then basically the effects can be very little. It's usually in between those years, 7 and 18, where it can affect you. And I've seen, when I was at high school, I saw kids whose parents divorced and it affected them quite significantly. So the 2 biggest reasons for separation is a lack of intimacy and financial challenges. So it's basically sex and money. And that's what's driven most people since day one. In my 2 cases, is neither of those issues. So let's get down to the 5 tips. Tip number 1 is a joint bank account. If you have a joint bank account, it needs to be frozen immediately. If you're still in an amicable relationship, you need to work things out, as certain costs still need to be paid, like property taxes on your house, joint house, the mortgage on your house. So if you're still in an amicable sort of relationship, but you decide to get separated, then you need to work out who's paying what and draw the line in the sand. So you have a very definite date stating that from that date onwards that she's going to be responsible for her costs and you're going to be responsible for your costs. So there's no cross-subsidization. Come across countless couples that say, no, we're all amicable, it's all going to be good. We're going to have stored shared joint expenses and cross-subsidization. And eventually people's needs and wants change and they introduce a new partner, jealousies occur, insecurities occur, and then bitterness occurs. And they start to get as much money as they can from the other person through the joint accounts. And the classic example is one guy I knew who was going through a separation, and in the final month of them living together before they separated, the wife ran up $27,000 on the joint credit card, which he underwrote. And it was basically mostly facial skin cream products. She was basically stocking up for post-separation. So, and he was left holding their baby, but he negotiated that in the final settlement over who got what and when. So you don't want to have any surprises, guys, and my advice is to freeze the joint account immediately. Obviously, someone's got to keep paying the property tax, the mortgage on the house, if you have one. So keep a recording of all this. Have all bank statements filed away. in your electronic folders, so that when it comes to the financial settlement, which takes time down the track, then you can have that as evidence that you've been incurring most of the costs, and it needs to be squared off in the final wash-up. Tip number 2 is legal representation. So not all lawyers are the same, okay? Like any pool of people, you have good people and incompetent people, and it's no different to accountants, policemen, nurses, doctors, engineers. You have very competent ones, and you have ones that are useless, that are incompetent and don't add a lot of value. So based on my personal experience with divorce number 1, I went through 2 lawyers before I found a good one. So the first 2 lawyers were just basically cranking up the clock, the meter, and when you sent them a simple email, they'd come back to you with a 13-page PDF letter stating these are your legal options. If you go down this track, you should look at A, B, and C. But if you look at A, then there's A, B, and C options underneath that, and then under that again there's A, B, and C again options. So it was just legal speak. It wasn't in plain simple English, and they were just basically milking me, and I didn't like them at all, their business approach. So my third and final lawyer, I wanted to go see him personally, and walked in. It was a big tall office complex in the city. I think it was on the 38th floor, but in the foyer, the floor to ceiling height was it would have been about 5, 6, 7 meters. It was all marble, and I thought, God, this guy's going to be expensive. Went up to the 38th floor, had a meeting with him, and immediately there was just instant rapport. There was just instant chemistry. He spoke my language, I spoke his language. And he came across as very honest, very astute, and knew the law inside out, and he was an expert in his particular field. And the cost back then, this is going back some time, it was about $400 an hour, which is at the high end of lawyers in our country. In New Zealand, it can go up to a lot higher than that, and it can be a lot less than that. But basically, you get what you pay for, and he, after being a divorce lawyer, he eventually became a high court judge. So he obviously had status and grunt in his narrow field, and he went on to become a judge. But so getting back to legal representation, it's crucial, absolutely crucial, that you get the right person representing you, and you don't want to penny pinch. And if you do penny pinch, it'll bite you in the bottom, because if you get a cheap lawyer, he most likely won't do his homework. He will be slightly incompetent, and he won't I've got you the best deal as you possibly could have got. Some people have negative net worth, so they've got debts to split upon separation, upon divorce. So I would recommend legal representation all the time, but get a lawyer, a good lawyer, and you don't want to penny pinch. It's going to be the biggest commercial decision of your life for most people. Most of your assets are tied up, and you need to free all that up to move on in your new direction. So it's really important you get a financial settlement. The actual divorce, that can occur when the legal statutory limitations apply. So as I was saying before, Russia, it's 3 months on one extreme, and then on the other there's Northern Ireland at 5 years. So it's really important you get the financial settlement sorted up front and as quickly as possible, because as times go on, people can change their requirements. So what initially was a reasonable offer at the start, it can go up 10x by the other person with their requests. So it's really important you get that sorted out ASAP, the financial settlement. So if you had a prenuptial agreement at the start and it's been regularly updated, then you're all good to go, and it should be quite good in the courts. But it's not always clad in concrete. depending on the lawyer on the other side, how much pain he wants to inflict on you. So with marriage, I strongly recommend that you have a marriage contract in place. Some countries call it a prenup, others just call it a marriage contract, and you state up front before you get married her assets, her liabilities, your assets, your liabilities, and any other clauses you want to put in there in terms of pets, financial settlement should there be a divorce, and so forth. And get professional advice and get it as ironclad as possible. And it does work. There's been a lot of people knocking prenuptials, a lot of people knocking marriage contracts, but I can assure you that if you get it done up front properly and you get it reviewed every 3 to 5 years, it's good to go in the final stage should you separate. Okay, tip number 3, children. So this is a big one. If there's no children involved, then it's a walk in the park. There's one less complication to sort out. But if there's children involved, you've got to work out a custody arrangement. And obviously a 2-parent household is a lot better than 1-parent household. The statistics prove that the outcomes of a 2-parent household is better than a 1-parent household, but we know it's not always possible. And the kids we brought up with their mother for a period of time, and yourself, and it comes down to how that works in with your timetable and how much of a father you want to be. And my advice is to be a very participative father as much as possible, given your work commitments or given your timetable. So the kids will acknowledge that later on in life, how you've put effort into them, and they'll reciprocate most likely. So child custody is, if it's amicable, your separation, and you can sort something out. Otherwise, if you come to disagreements and one person uses the children as a bargaining chip over you as to your access to them, then you've got to go to court. And in our jurisdiction in New Zealand, there's a separate court for child custody, working out what will be the arrangements of the kids. And I've heard criticism in the past about it being one-sided. Yes, the laws have caught up where the woman was left holding the kids and not getting any financial contribution. But in terms of the family court in this jurisdiction, it is relatively fair. They look at both your backgrounds and what will be best for the kids, and the court can decide that. So if you're going to go to that court, then you've got to make sure you present well and get good representation. Now, in terms of the custody support payments, that also gets stipulated by the court, and you need to follow those payments. And it's usually brokered by the tax department. And there is very stiff penalties if you fail in your child support payments. And they are usually worked out on a table of what the expenses are for a child and what sort of lifestyle they've been used to. So in this particular jurisdiction, it's based on income, what your income is, and it's a certain percentage of that. So if you're earning good bank, it takes a huge chunk out of your pay packet, even though the actual costs of bringing up those kids could be significantly less than what the government wants you to pay. So that can hit you quite hard if you're going to be making child support payments. Also, is the pets are involved. Some people get very, very attached to their dog, and it can be used as a bargaining chip. And you need to ascertain who has legal ownership of the dog. And then alimony, what your wife was, her lifestyle, what she was accustomed to leading up to the separation. And people's financial situations can change, and she may have been accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and businesses can change and have years of difficult situations and cash flow issues, but you're still going to make those alimony payments. And there's been a lot of guys that have been caught out because they don't have the cash flow anymore to support those alimony payments. And that can be quite tough, very tough. Tip number 4 is taxes, capital gains and future tax liabilities. So when you're negotiating the wash up, you need to factor in any potential liabilities down the track. If you have a company that is operating for the last 15 years and it's had a payroll of say 50 people, and there's complications with how the holiday pay is calculated, you could be hit up for a big penalty in incorrect holiday pay, and it only takes one employee to work it out that there's been a computer fault with the software or the way the act that has been interpreted from Parliament. And that means that not only that employee is entitled to back pay of holiday pay, that also means that all current and previous employees will be entitled to that payout under law. So I've come across a guy that split up, and he took his business with him, moved out of the family home, gave the home to his ex-wife, but he was hit up for about a $2 million penalty in holiday pay. And that was unseen at the time when the settlement was done. So these are the sort of things you need to factor in. And another one is skeletons in the closet when it comes to tax liabilities. You may have a company that has paid its tax every so often, but it's been incorrectly recording figures, and you may be up for a big tax liability. And I've seen some people that have taken the business, left the house with the wife, and they've gone on. Some of them have done very well. They've multiplied the size of the business, but also some guys have fallen over and lost everything. So you've got to be very careful how you do things, how you split things up. Tip number 5 is closure, right? So once you get the financial agreement sorted out, that's all good. And then the actual divorce, the dissolution of the marriage certificate, that will take place when the time occurs. So in my jurisdiction here in New Zealand, it's 2 years. I think it's 6 months in some parts of the United States. And when that ticks along, you get the marriage certificate cancelled. So, but the important one is getting the financial settlement completed and agreed to by both parties. And that can be quite complicated, and it can be quite time consuming. But once all that's behind you, it's a major relief, okay? So once you sign off on the financial, it's a major relief. You pretty much know what your financial obligations are going forward and what you need to pay out or receive, may the case be. So it's new beginnings, guys, and you need to move forward and not hold any bitterness or resentment what previously occurred. And it's new beginnings, and you've got a clean slate, and you move forward. And for those that want to get back into the dating market, if you want to get companionship again, then you've got to be the best version of yourself. And that may be losing a bit of weight, or get into a new mindset, new hobbies, new social network, new friendship group, and it's onwards and upwards. And you've got to be quite positive. And close one chapter and open a new chapter. Close one door, open a new door. So it's about moving on in a positive fashion, not having any bitterness of what occurred in the past, because bitterness doesn't get you anywhere. You just drop it, let it go. It costs you a bit of money, but she's out of your hair. And if there's kids involved, they are the forefront. You need to make sure that you're around for them. They have their off days, they have their good days, and there's sporting events, and there's all sorts of activities you need to do with kids. And if you put the time in with kids early, then you'll find that there'll be less of a headache when they get older. And what I'm talking about is being productive citizens, so they don't become liabilities. They're not living at home at 30 unemployed, or in your basement playing games all night. They're well heeled. They know how to get out there. They know how to hustle. They know how to get a job. They know how to be productive, and they're off your financial cords. So have that in mind once you close the separation divorce with your ex. If you have kids, put them at the forefront, put as much effort in as you can to them, and make sure they become productive people and happy chappies. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you got something out of the 5 tips for separation. It is crucial that you are in a right frame of mind and take this seriously, because this is the biggest commercial decision you'll ever make in your life for most people. Some people will never get back up to this financial level again commercially, because they're not commercial people. So it's a big decision for a lot of people, for both people. So take it seriously and close it and move on and start a new chapter in your life. That's it for today, guys. Thanks.